Geez, Blake, come on. We don't have all day.
Yes, we do. You already have a quorum. In my own mind. I'm gonna stand, because I'm gonna stand in the.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
Yes, under miscellaneous, we added a housing focus group funding request.
Cross it off?
No, added it. We just put it on it yesterday, just added it.
Is
Thank
there a
you.
motion to approve the agenda as changed?
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Okay, the agenda is approved as printed. Approval of the January 12th or 10th minutes.
So moved.
There's support.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved as printed. Okay, we have limited public comments. None? Okay, next on the agenda is E-Trans semi-annual report.
Hi. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the
You're
commission.
welcome.
How are you?
Short. Some of you.
So there's been a lot going on in the transit world, especially E-Tran, in the last couple of months, all positive. I've broken this into 3 areas, and I will be brief on each of those. The first is operations. One of the main focuses that we had over the last several months is to hire new drivers. We were able to hire 6 new drivers, which allowed us to maintain the service that has been put on the street in the past. If we had call-offs or we had an issue with the amount of folks coming in, some of those runs would go down. This has had a positive effect on ridership. Overall, ridership is up. When looking at it on an annualized basis, from month to month, depending upon the weather and the number of school days and so forth, it may fluctuate, but overall it is up. One of the big positive things in Eaton County is the Route 3 extension up in Delta Township. And we've talked about this before, that is Eaton County transit service, and that continues to grow. In fact, on a monthly basis, we are looking at thousands of trips in just the extension area from the Lansing Mall out to the marketplace. In the middle of January, under the direction of the E-Tran board, we were able to put new service on street. So the next item here is the amount of service that we were able to begin restoring. And we added back the connector route, only we did a little twist to it. Instead of going from Walmart to Walmart, which was the route before the pandemic, it is now originating from this location out front, and it goes to the old courthouse and then goes up to Marketplace. I will tell you, we were unfortunate enough to launch that service on the 15th, which was about 2 below zero, very icy and snowy, and we had ridership that day. In fact, we had a rider from Eaton Rapids ride up and transfer all the way up to Delta Township. That ridership on that connector route has steadily grown over the last couple of weeks. In fact, Mr. Chairman, you'll hear this later today at the board meeting. In January, we had about 38 people ride that. In the last 2 weeks, we're now pushing 60 So I see that continue to grow. One of the neat things about the connector route is the way it was designed as a flex route, but also as fixed route. So the route is on an hourly basis, which makes it easy, but we tied it into the technology on the CATA system. So if you go to the app called Transit or Google Maps and look at the transit service, you will be able to track that bus live back and forth between Delta and this location.
Don't want to interrupt, Brad, but I noticed this morning that there was a van sitting out front. Is that, I'm not sure I've seen vans right in front.
Right here? Yeah.
Did
So-
you brought in on that?
No, sir. In fact, thank you for asking, though. The van you're talking about is one of the former CATA vans that is an E-Tran van now. We are running vans on the connector service. In fact, when I rolled up, there were 2 people getting off the bus for this location.
You know, glory. We've had E-Tran for decades, and people always ask, why don't you have any vans? And it's like, there was always some reason we didn't have vans that I never understood. And now I come up here and I see a van, obviously the right sized vehicle to transport a few people. So, appreciate it.
Well, this was requested, that was requested by this commission to explore. In fact, there are other vans being disposed of from the CATA site, which may go north to the Clinton system for the same reason as we explore these efficiencies. So with the addition of the drivers and the addition of those vehicles, we've been able to put that service out on the street and actually look at and begin talking with the board about possibly doing another connector, maybe Grand Ledge, in the future. The last item that I wanted to bring to your attention is probably should have started with this, but I wanted to talk about the existing operations first. In the background, we've been working on the transit study. So over the last year, we hired a consultant to do a survey of not only the residents, but the businesses throughout the county. It was, we believe, very successful. We had close to 300 people respond to that. We also, in partnership with CATA, had a number of surveyors on the Route 3 to talk about origins and destinations, and there were a number of questions on that, which that summary was sent over to the board, and I have copies here if you would like to take those. But what we found is an overwhelming support for more transit, not only in the evenings, but also on Saturdays. And again, we launched Saturday service in connection with the connector in January 15th, and that ridership is also up. So I think there is community support for additional transit as we move forward, but what we've done is we've been able to do it on an à la carte basis. So the first time we've seen the E-Tran community really identify what they want as far as transit in the future and take that forward and find out how to best do that and how to pay for that. So we're pleased with that. The last thing I will tell you is we've also been waiting to hear from Michigan Department of Transportation on a new grant. You'll recall that the reason we've been able to do this over the last year and a half is because we got a grant from MDOT. We've been asking them, especially with a lot of the focus on, even statewide, on regionalism of services and efficiencies. We said, what better example than what we're doing here in Eaton County with CATA and Clinton. And last week, we were notified that we were successful, and that grant will be coming forward shortly for $1.7 million, which should really allow us to finish off a lot of the things that we've been trying to do over the next year and a half or so before we make decisions on how we move forward. So that, Madam Chair, is really, in a nutshell, what's going on, where we've been the last several months, where we're going in the future. I'm sure there are questions, but wanted to keep it as tight as possible.
Terrence?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, and thanks for that report, Brad. A couple of quick things I did want to follow up and add. as was brought up, the acquisition of the vans, that wouldn't have happened without the partnership with CATA. So that was another example of this regional partnership that we have. Those vans were being disposed of, and I believe, Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, but the state typically didn't allow other transit authorities to purchase vans from another transit authority. So that was something that the state worked with us on to allow that.
While I would rarely correct you, Mr. Chairman,
And yet you will.
there,
He said rarely.
you are able to sign those over because they are both federally and state funded, and they reach their useful life. There just wasn't a system to trade vehicles. They were just auctioned off. And you have transits all over the state needing these vehicles. So I've certainly asked that this become a statewide effort.
Yeah, so that was, again, part of that partnership that we have. As Brad mentioned too, the Saturday service, I think, is a big deal for our residents here throughout the whole county. Obviously, the Route 3 extension up in Delta Township has been wildly successful. And I would just encourage you guys all to read through the report. It is shorter than the Strata environmental report that is in your packet. And I can assure you it's much, much more interesting and easier to understand. And you'll read that there is a lot of overwhelming support throughout the entire county for additional transit. And so I'm excited for the things that we're doing. I want to thank Logan and Lolo, who's also does communications for CATA. They worked with a couple of groups here locally to get some coverage for the connector route. So Brad and I were on a podcast last week, and then prior to that, we did a news interview for Channel 47. So it's good to get some communication out there to our folks so they know what is happening and that they're responding to. We are responding directly to what they've asked us in the studies. So I'm really excited about where we're headed, and thanks again, Brad, for that report this morning.
Pleasure.
Blake?
Brad, and I'm pleased to hear that you've been able to hire some drivers. I've seen the ads on all different media sites, and I appreciate it, and I think they had something to do with it, but the wages have a lot to do with it, too. Would you, just out of curiosity and for information for people, what is the starting wage for a CATA driver or a E-Tran driver?
So E-Tran is $18 an hour.
Okay.
So, thank you for the question. The driving, to be a driver at E-Tran requires a commercial driver's license, as does an MDOT snowplow driver, CATA driver, Dean driver. So what we did is we took a step back and we looked, if you have a CDL, where would you drive and what's the market driving here as far as wages? E-Tran was low, so we opened up the contract, and in fact, it was much lower than that, in the 15 range, and we were able to hire drivers full-time off the street with benefits, and that made the difference.
Blake?
You already had his turn, Barb. Good morning. What time do the routes in Charlotte begin?
Yes, I have a flyer here which I will share with the commissioners. So the connector is Monday through Friday, 6 a.m., and it begins here at 6 a.m.
All right, thank you. There's a discussion in public safety here a few years ago about inmates that are released on Monday mornings, and they just kind of hung out in town waiting for somebody, a chance ride, that sort of thing. So I'm assuming now that that's been addressed.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Joe?
Thank you. You talked about your survey and that it would appear to see that there's support for expanded routes, times, whatnot, expanded service.
Sure.
Have you developed any kind of at least approximation or overall figures as to what, I guess it's a two-part question, really. Do you have a plan? Are you developing a plan to expand service? And have you looked at what those costs would be in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. And
I tried.
what we've done is we've looked at it kind of à la carte, meaning that in the past, it's been looked at as an entire county system. And if a millage adjustment was going to be made, it would be made for the entire county. What we did is, we looked at what types of service need to be implemented. I have traditionally thought that the region is made up and it's funded by rural service and urban service. Quite simply, folks in the rural areas don't want to pay for a very expensive fixed route up in Delta Township. I mean, it's very expensive service. In fact, that service is probably pushing $700,000 or $800,000 a year. So what we did is we looked at a system whereby communities can invest in service that they want based on that. And so, yeah, the study does look at and prioritize short-term, middle range, and longer-term solutions and how they can be addressed.
So you would be more likely to make an agreement with the townships or the villages themselves as opposed to looking at a countywide funding mechanism?
I think it is a combination of both. I think it's always been one or the other. In fact, the relationship with the region at CATA has always been one or the other. Join the authority or you don't get any new service. So what we've done is we've taken a step back and said, let's hear from the communities themselves and develop an appropriate level of service for the county. And then if the communities want greater amounts of service or specific services, they can have a mechanism to fund that. What we wanted to do is put as much of the decision-making into the locals' hands.
Terrence?
Yeah, and Joe, the idea behind it is to, not take a one-size-fits-all approach and look at transit similar to how the municipalities in Ingham County look at it. There's a countywide millage that serves the county as a whole, and then each individual, or not each, but some of the individual jurisdictions, as you know, have additional millages to support additional transit. Because that was the one thing that, we have known and I've seen since I've been on the board is that, what a rider in Olivet wants is not the same as what a rider in Delta wants. And so obviously there are going to be differences in needs and uses for public transit, which is going to lead to differences in costs. And that's one of the reasons too why it's exciting to get this additional funding from the state, because what we're trying to do is basically take our survey that we used to gain knowledge from our constituents and put that together with some of these concepts like the Route 3 extension, and to see the success of that. Now we've got a story to tell the community. If Delta Township wants to look at additional transit, which a lot of folks and a lot of businesses would like to see in Delta Township, then we're trying to create a mechanism for them to do that in a concept that has proven to work. And so similarly, if we look at other connections, there may be some other discussions with other jurisdictions. Now, ultimately, it will be up to each jurisdiction if they want to have additional transit. But I do suspect that there will be a lot of conversations happening in the next couple of years once we start seeing some of these concepts be proved out. So another exciting part of this is just the different approach as opposed to, a one-size-fits-all, just looking at what each community needs, so.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could I leave these with you, or?
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Landfill report?
Good morning.
I didn't mean to not report. It's all right, I understand.
As you were aware, we submitted a report of our semi-annual landfill testing, groundwater sampling. a couple months ago, there were some questions. I decided to bring in Mike Serafini from Strata Environmental Services. He's the subject matter expert to answer any questions, kind of tell you what he does for us and what the conditions are out at that site, a little more information than I was able to provide. So I've asked him to not bore you with the uninteresting details of the report, but I'll turn it over to Mike. Thanks.
All right. Thank you for letting me speak, everybody. Excuse me. So anyways, like I said, I'm Mike Serafini, and I'm a hydrogeologist, and Strata is a hydrogeologic and environmental consulting firm and also providing the services for the industry. So what we do for you is part of your post-closure monitoring requirements on the landfill. I was brought in well after the wells had been installed and a previous company was doing the monitoring. We picked up the monitoring and we've been doing it for quite a few years now. I can't even remember. But on a semi-annual basis, there are a set of required parameters that we sample the monitor wells at your facility. In our, every year when we, or every semi-annual report, we, independent of some of the other contaminants, metals and inorganic stuff, it's the volatile organic compounds that show up in the wells that are hydraulically down gradient from the landfill. That means water moving under your landfill is groundwater is flowing towards those wells. So what we're doing is that's what drives what I'm going to get to next. So you've got this contamination down there. So as long as that's going on, you're going to be pretty much on a semi-annual basis down there. They're not requiring any active remediation. But because you do have that contamination there, and PFAS is associated with landfilling as amongst other things, that is why they included sampling for PFAS compounds on your basically wells and the down gradient area, that area where we're monitoring. That also being said, what works in your favor is that the furthest down gradient well is clean. So as long as that's happening, you're not going to be required to do additional investigation and additional work at this time. Unless something changes in the law, it's just a monitoring program. And outside of that, I'll offer it up for any questions. I know the reports are tough to understand. I get that all the time. You know, they're hard to read because they are technical documents and they're mostly directed towards the state.
Are there any questions? Blake?
You know, I'm concerned, my major concern is essentially the state or the feds moving the goalposts. You know, PFAS wasn't even a phraseology or a thought only 10 years ago. And suddenly it's become a catchphrase, and instead of one, there's 42 different compounds, and the thing is expanding exponentially. And my concern is our liability in the future. And I know we can't change it, and we're not in charge of it. You're only monitoring it, but I just have to state here now that, you know, we as this is an obligation that we're attached to, and we really have no other options if the state asks us to start doing remediation.
Yeah, I understand your point. I don't see it happening, okay? The contamination's on your property. If it were migrating off your property, then they'd have a leg to stand on. But you're monitoring it, and in my industry, what that's called is monitoring natural attenuation, letting it just do its thing and degrade with time.
Okay.
All right? And the PFAS compounds, yeah, they keep adding compounds, but we're still only 7 that are regulated, okay?
Today.
Today. And they are, I'm sure, and I know they're collecting the data to, you know, develop the toxicological information to determine what they had. And quite frankly, I'm very surprised at how low a detection limit PFAS compounds have. I mean, as it is, we work in the part per billion range, but this is the first time, and I never thought in my career I'd see part per trillion concentrations and, you know, 4 part per trillion drinking water criteria.
What is
So-
it, a drop in an ocean? And what-
So a part per billion, I think, is 1 or 2 shot glasses of compound in an Olympic-sized swimming pool, all right? Now you're 1,000 times smaller than that. So I've never had it put into those terms from part per trillion. But yeah, I never thought, I've been doing this, I'm gonna start my 40th year at the end of this month in this profession, and I never thought I'd see something so low. So, which is why all the background sampling we have to do around it, because we can create cross-contamination through clothing, things we touch, and it's a really tricky thing. But I do not see them doing that to you. And the recent, just to explain, the recent well replacements out there that I've been doing, I just got done with some more, is those old wells deteriorate over time. And some of them were kind of set into not such a good formation and needed to be raised into a true monitoring location. And I was just generating, quite frankly, for the money you spend on the data, we were collecting questionable data because of, I could see it in my monitoring, because you pump a well dry, you got to go back to it the next day, to try to get fresh water and representative water into it. So it's, everything has worked out good with the well replacements, and I'm pretty happy with your monitoring network now.
Joe?
So,
I actually was going to surprise, I take the opposite side of Blake's concerns. Mine is how often do the requirements for what you're testing for, how often do they change? Because when I came on this board, PFAS wasn't even in anyone's vocabulary. And my concern is that there are compounds out there that we're just now discovering, similar to PFAS, that are harmful, especially to the young.
yep.
So my question is, how often are these things looked at in terms of changing the requirements that you test for? And then the other thing I was concerned about was, and you've kind of addressed it, in terms of whether or not we have a regular maintenance in regards to those wells, because it does make sense to me that they would deteriorate over time.
So you're right about the PFAS compounds. There is no rhyme or reason to when they, change concentrations. They do update on specific compounds periodically their toxicologic assessment and may change, raise or lower an exposure criteria. In the case of PFAS, you can't, and you're right, you can't protect about the new hottest concern coming out. And the big concern with PFAS and why it's the hot button topic, it's a bioaccumulator. So, and that's why it's got such a low drinking water criteria, because it bioaccumulates. It isn't that you're just exposed to a concentration and it may cause health effects. It builds up in your system. And that's why there's a big push on PFAS.
I mean, the reality of this is that we're always going to be behind as science determines more compounds, more problems, whatever, and develops, what the actual result is. So we're always 2 or 3 steps behind regardless of how
Right.
you do your job.
Right, but on a positive note, try to put a positive spin on things here. A while back, all our cleanup criteria, like acceptable drinking water criteria, was based on the exposure scenarios. So let's take it for drinking water. I think it's like 30 years. You drink X amount of water. They assume you drink X gallons of water every day, 7 days a week for 30 years. And in that exposure scenario, whatever number they used to have, it said that at this number, a person has a 1 in 1 million chance of developing an adverse health effect. And they used to make us clean up all soil to non-detect, which was how clean is clean. They have reversed things and eased up stuff And now our exposure scenario and allowable concentrations are 1 in 100,000. So it's lightened up the requirements in, quote, reporting contaminated groundwater, if that makes any sense. So in some aspects, it goes to your favor, and other times you just can't do anything about changing laws and scientific advancements. Point in case, part per billion to part per trillion. I didn't think I'd ever see it.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you. You all have a good day.
Thanks for coming in. You bet.
Construction code?
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
In the packet, there was the annual reports for Planning Commission for 2022 and 2023. Just for you guys to take a look at. The Planning Commission did approve both of them, so they will come to the full board. Do you guys have any questions on the annual reports? So online permitting, BSNA was in our office on the January 29th, 30th, and 31st. They've got the program set up. We've been practicing with it. We were missing a couple of key pieces. I just got what I needed from the treasurer's office so we could do the credit card transactions. So I'm hoping the 1st of March at the latest to have it live and up and going. Yes, sir.
Are you gonna put a convenience fee on the credit card application or credit card payments?
I don't have any control over that.
Right, but are you?
I'm sure there will be, yes.
Okay.
We did meet property descriptions, the treasurer's office, technology services and myself met. We had some more discussion about going to the BSNA to the cloud. I'm going to try and set up a meeting with BSNA. We have some more questions for them. But we're going to continue to have conversations about that and hopefully very soon be able to come to you guys and go to the cloud. Once we do, I can tell you that if we do go to BSNA and want to sign a contract, it's 12 to 18 months before it is up and running. That's what they said.
That wouldn't impact, that doesn't impact the other.
No, the online permitting, nope. No, basically that takes the BSNA off premise and makes them responsible for it. Okay, so the master plan, it's gone in for its 60-day, went in on January 24th for its 63-day review. The public hearing is scheduled for April 23rd at 6 PM. We have been talking to Mr. DeYoung over the property in Carmel and Eaton Township by the I-69 interchange. We did have a meeting with Mr. Eric DeYoung and the Carmel and Eaton Township supervisors, just to get some more discussion. Brady and I will both be going to the Eaton Township and Carmel Township's March meetings, along with Mr. DeYoung. So I'm not sure where that's headed. I really haven't asked the townships how they feel. They had a lot of great questions, I thought the supervisors did when we sat down here with them. So I think there's some interest, but
The April 23rd date, your public hearing, that's on a, was that the correct date? April 23? That's on a Tuesday in the middle of the month? Where's that going to be and what meeting is it in front of or
it's just it's a public hearing, so the public can come in and,
like here?
yeah.
Just,
I assume it'll be in here, won't it, Brady?
it's just by itself? There's nothing else attached to it?
No.
Okay.
It's just for the public if they have questions.
Yeah. A
So,
lot of times we arrange these in a way that something else is going on, so that, but I'm just asking, so. Okay.
The last thing I have is, it was brought to my attention that Windsor Township has created their own ordinance to take over permitting and inspecting. It was actually brought to my attention through an ad in the paper. They were looking for a building inspector and a building official. So I attempted to sit down with the board and have a conversation, you know, is there something that my department's doing wrong, or, I was unable to do that. Their township supervisor did call me, and told me that that wasn't necessary, that they have made their decision and it is final. And I said, okay, and I wasn't trying, and I told him that, I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm trying to make sure that, you know, if it's something my department is doing, I want to know about it, so I can make the corrections and do what I can. He did tell me that one of the things was that the residents in Windsor Township don't like driving 14 miles here and 14 miles home to pull their permits. I did explain to him that we're really close to going to online permitting. So I did go on their website after their meeting on the 7th, and in their meeting minutes, it sounds like they're gonna try and go in front of the state board in April, because it all has to go through the state of Michigan. I'll have to send paperwork into the state of Michigan, so it's not gonna happen right away, but it is gonna happen. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I was in contact with Oneida Township, and as you know, their inspector is retiring and, you know, got a
Oh, I didn't know
replacement.
that.
Yeah, Tom is looking at retiring. But they were more interested in the online services from BSNA, and they're, you know, interested in doing that. So they want you to be sort of the pilot program and see how it works, because frankly, that's a useful benefit for
Yeah.
a lot of these places.
Yeah, and I will tell you that throughout the county, you know, I get comments from Bellevue Township. Well, it is a drive to have to come in here and, you know, and I understand that, and that's why I'm trying to get this up and running.
Good. Well, on the Windsor Township thing, they certainly have the right to do what they want.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if we look at our situation, you're trying to find qualified inspectors and people to do the work.
Yeah.
They're not under every stone.
No, they're not, and, you know, and I don't know exactly what their plan is. I have an idea of some of it, but I don't know for sure. The thing that I'm most bothered by is there was no communication.
Is it, I foresee a township might do part of their inspections, maybe the building, but not the mechanical or
trades.
plumbing or the trades.
Yeah.
And you see that as being kind of the direction we're going, that we have the trade inspectors and nobody else does?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to find, because if you can't, you have to have a building official and a building inspector. So you have to be licensed in both. So it's hard to find, if more townships are gonna leave, I'm gonna say it's gonna be easier for them to go to a third-party company.
Right.
But in doing that, they lose all the control from my experience working out in construction. The third-party company takes all of the permit money, they do all the permitting, they do all the inspections. Township's kind of out of it at that point.
And then when a customer is unhappy, you know, basically the township or the city get all the flack.
Yep.
But they don't have anything to do, they can't control it, so.
And I can tell you from the years that I spent out in the field, I dealt with several third-party companies, and maybe it's changed a little bit now, but you might wait 2 weeks for an inspection until they're back in that area. Because they'll do several areas throughout a state, so.
Okay.
We'll see. Anything else?
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, have a good day.
Thank you.
I am very pleased to introduce you all to our new Environmental Sustainability Director, Jared Bogdanoff Hanna. Did I get that anywhere close to correct?
Bogdanov, Hannah.
Bogdanov. I practiced it, and I knew I practiced it for so long that I was going to likely get it wrong. Jared started on Monday. I'm already very excited to be a part of the direction he's going to take our department into. I think we have some great things coming, and I'm so happy that we took the time to find just the right fit for our department. Now, he has only been here for 2 days, so if you have no comments, I will excuse him and give the report. We'll put him on the seat next month.
He's already busy working in his first 2 days. Thanks, Jared.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
On other great personnel news, we have hired the new Sunfield Recycling Center operator. And our old operator was kind enough to come to train him. I spoke to him last week. He said he barely needs any training. He's doing great. He'll be working on his own soon. So we're full staffed now. How great is that?
Knock on some wood.
As you will all recall, we have been taking the number 5 PPs from Calhoun County, I believe since July. We've so far taken in 780 pounds of these materials. I was recently contacted by Calhoun County and Metro Recycling Solutions. Calhoun County is now losing their number 1s and number 2 distributor. They're in a process right now of planning and building a new recycling center. And it is because of, that they do not have this center in place, that no one wants to come and pick up their materials. It's the way they're handling them in their temporary position. So they would like to work with Eaton County to have us start taking all of their plastics. Now, I'm not asking for anything specific from the board today, but I wanted to let you know that I was working on this because I will likely next month be bringing something for your approval. This could get pretty in-depth, and it might come down to where we have to decide, we want to collaborate with our neighbors, but I will need the board's guidance to decide how far we're willing to go to do that. So hopefully I will have a couple of scenarios to share next month, but I wanted to let you know that I was working on this. And if there's no questions regarding that, I have one other. Our solid waste ordinance licensing and reporting forms, we currently have one delinquent only. It is our hauler who generally we have some issues with, so we decided to give him an additional month. He did contact me once, which is a positive. Any contact is a good thing. Other than that, just give him another 30 days. We'll set a hearing date for next month. At that point, we'll just have to go towards the hearing. I was really hoping that we wouldn't have to do that with this gentleman a second time. But I will continue to call him almost daily to try to get that.
You and his customers both, from what I see online, so.
Yes, I did speak with him 2 weeks ago. He told me he was out of town at his father's funeral. So obviously, get in touch with me when you get back. We set the hearing for next month, but if I don't hear from him by next month, we will have the hearing scheduled for the next Public Works and Planning meeting. And that's really all I have.
Debbie, we put the Berry County letter in there,
Oh,
in the packet.
okay, all righty.
So we got that from Berry County. I imagine we get the same letter from all of the adjacent counties.
I have spoke with Clinton and Ingham, and they have not done their letter, and we were discussing kind of working together to come up with our letter, so that we'd be basically sending out the same thing. That hasn't taken place yet, and now that we have Jared here, I will probably be handing that off to him. We do need to get ours around and ready.
I mean, it's nice that Michael Brown did give us a self-stamped envelope to return it in.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to do that. I don't think I have that in the budget right now.
So Debbie and I wouldn't really have a recommendation for you today on that letter. If we were forced to recommend something, it would be no at this time. We just don't know enough about the regional collaboration that they want at this time to be able to give you guidance on
That's kind of
how
what my
to move
point is
forward.
about, we're like, thanks, Mike, I mean, it's all good, we understand, but this has got to be a regional thing, and everybody has to kind of be on the same page, and just answer a form letter, you sort of need a meeting
have
of the
met
minds
with-
of the whole group, of who's going to work with whom, and what are the plans going to be, and this is a big deal, and I'm happy to rule out Berry County, you're not going to be able to work with us, but it seems to me we want to, it seems we want to have a plan, so.
I have met with Berry County
We
twice.
want their response by February 27th.
And they gave us a self-stamped envelope, just to
Bruce.
make sure we,
We'll scan it and email it to them, though.
The more time that I have spent on this and meeting with other counties, what I have seen so far is that the counties that are less developed than we are interested in partnering with us. And it almost is, Berry and Ionia, they seem to have a vision where they will use the Sunfield Recycling Center. We do collaborations like that all the time. They already use the Sunfield Recycling Center. That type of collaboration doesn't need to be done within the MMP. If we all do our own, go solo on our MMPs, we will still collaborate with our local governments. And that's where I know Ingham, Calhoun, and personally myself at this time, and of course, Jared is getting in on the mix now, are leaning towards doing it solo. I don't see the great benefit other than, $10,000 and you have to deal with a whole other group of commissioners? Like, can Berry and Eaton County commissioners play nice together?
No.
Were you waiting for an answer?
Yeah, I really fail to see the benefit of these partnerships, because any partnership that we have with them, like Calhoun County, I will continue to have a good relationship with Calhoun County, but they don't want to partner with us on the MMP. They want to go it alone and not have any external factors involved in what they're going to do with their county. So this is a necessity. It's something that we're going to have to do. But if I had to answer them today, yes, I would say no, that we do not
Jared's,
want to.
this is one of the first projects Jared's going to work on, so we're giving him a whole bunch of reading material. I don't want to sway whatever his decision is, or whatever his recommendation would be in the end, but from what Debbie and I have dove into so far, the plan gets very technical in like what products you're collecting, where you're taking the projects. I don't know as if it's going to be feasible to collaborate. We may very well have a recommendation at the end of the day to do our own, and like Debbie said, do those other collaborations. But it is the first thing Jared's going to take a look at, so hopefully next month he'll have more information for you on it. But as far as Berry County goes, we can write them a nice letter that just says we're not willing to commit at this time, and we'll let them know in the future if that's what you would like us to do.
Yes, Terrence.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would support that letter. That would be my approach. And I do think that collaboration is going to be extremely important as we try to deal with this issue, which I know you know that as well. I think the collaboration is going to come on the execution of the actual plan, not on the development of the plan. That's what I'm thinking. So, I mean, there will be, I assume you will continue to collaborate, as you mentioned, with the other counties, especially those that we consider more like us to where we're headed. And yeah, as you have been, but I agree. I don't think the formal collaboration on the plan is going to be helpful to us. I think it's going to probably make it a little bit more difficult to do what we specifically want to do here, in my opinion. And the benefit, as you said, the benefit is really not that great from a financial standpoint, so.
Yeah, $10,000 in the scheme of the whole project is, nothing.
Right. Good.
I would agree with Terrence. Okay, Blake?
And I would also, I'm really pleased to hear that, collaboration certainly isn't off the table. I mean, our Sunfield Recycling Center is in a location where you could throw a stone and land it in Berry County. So it's, obviously that's going to be mutually beneficial to both the counties, and I never want to take the collaboration away.
And if they chose to start using it in a more significant manner where they actually helped support it financially and could, they could make that a part of their plan without us partnering with them. We can obviously do that just between the two counties. I mean, that would be fantastic if we could do that.
You, just in your last comment put up a reason why there's no point at this time to sit there and try to develop a plan in connection with Berry County or frankly, any of the other counties. Because, you're going to get into the politics of it. We have a connection to Berry County in at least one instance that I'm aware of that I've been a part of now for quite a few years, and it's pretty clear that there is a distinct difference in philosophy between Berry County and Eaton County in terms of public health. And that's manifested by a number of the various commissioners who have served on the same board that I serve on, and frankly, Blake serves on, in conversations with them. And so, if you're going to start to develop a plan with another county and you have the facility in Sunfield as an example, how much are they going to contribute to the financial wherewithal of that? And you start getting into the political weeds, and I think it would be detrimental, frankly, to both counties in terms of developing a plan. Once you've developed your plan, you certainly can look to working with other counties or utilizing other county facilities, as Berry might use Sunfield as a realistic place where their citizens can come and participate. But at this point, I don't see any real, in fact, I see nothing but negatives to going forward in developing any kind of plan in conjunction with Berry County specifically, because that's who we're talking about today, but frankly, any of the other jurisdictions around us.
Yes, Terrence?
Yeah, just switching gears a little bit and back on the topic of Calhoun County and the plastics with them, I would be certainly supportive of what you bring to us next month, assuming that there's no additional cost to our residents. So, my perspective would be I'm fine with partnering with them, but if there is additional cost that we would bear, then we would have to build that into our agreement with them, would be my assumption that this board would feel, but that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, we are currently working on two plans. One of them would have Calhoun County paying us to unload their trucks and to bale their materials. What we'll end up getting into is the man hours and how. One of the problems that I have that I will have to bring to you in the future, next month when this is a little more solidified, is how many, even if they're paying us for the man hours, how many of our Sunfield man hours are we able to offer them? We'll have the recycling truck coming soon. If there was a potential that it would require a second employee, and even if what they were paying was going to cover that, that's a big step to take someone's materials. At this point, it's almost indefinitely, because while they've been working with Next Cycle and RRS, shockingly, that has gone very slowly. And I think they're 2 years in, and they're trying to buy a piece of land, but they're waiting on come back what the contamination level is at, on this land, whether they can put it there. So they don't even have the land yet. We would be committing, of course, we could set our own deadlines, obviously, but on their end, I have no date to give as far as when this would end.
So what facilities do they have? Do they have multiple recycling centers like we do, drop-off sites, or?
No,
Okay.
no, they have one spot in Marshall. I actually went and viewed it last week so I could kind of have a better understanding what we were working with. And they literally have roll-off carts with bags in them, and they're storing stuff in those bags. They have 2 semi-trailers that the paper can go in. And when they bring the number 5s to us, they just pull those bags out of the carts and bring them over. So there's just these roll-offs stacked up all over the place. They have a cardboard baler that I believe is owned by the company that takes the cardboard, and it's used for only cardboard, and it's outside. So they have a very, very small inside area and then a small fenced-in area that's attached to their DPW department. It is definitely not ideal.
So is the issue from the purchaser's standpoint is that they don't, is it the baler? Is that the main thing? They don't have the ability to bale their own product, or what?
Yes, and to find someone who would come and take it in the bags is a real difficulty. So no one wants to take it in the bags. They only want to purchase the end product, the baled product. Another addition to this is that Cara here in Charlotte has had issues with their materials. They do not have enough room for storage, so they're storing some stuff outside, which degrades the material, lowers the price they can get for it. We all have an issue with our volumes. We need a full tractor trailer of materials to get them to come pick them up. So we're also looking into putting Cara into the mix, where the trucking company that we work with would stop in Marshall and pick up those materials. Then they would come to Cara and get their bales, and then when they would bring them to Sunfield. The part of that that's not ideal is if you think of the tractor, you have bags in the back and bales in the front. So we would have to unload the bales with the forklift, stack them, then take the bags off. We would bale the bags. Now, if we had enough for a load to go out, we would then have to take the Cara bales, load them back into the forklift, and send out the vehicle. What I'm hoping to do over this next month is take this preliminary plan and make it more efficient. But it could be really difficult. and
Sounds
that
like
might-
there's some challenges, but.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Calhoun has stated that they're willing to pay to make sure that they cover our costs and maybe like 10% over, because otherwise their only option at this point is to stop taking plastics. And, obviously, I'm a recycler. I don't want to see that happen, but I really do need to work on this and see if I can make it a little bit more efficient before I bring something to you and ask you to take it on. I mean, there'd be money that would have to change hands. We would market the materials from Sunfield, and we would have to pay Cara for their portion. Calhoun would probably waive their portion, but there could be quite a bit to it.
Well, it'd be a good time to talk to the other centers too and find out if there's, in our county, the other Eaton County centers. I mean, we're moving, sounds like we're kind of organically moving closer to that hub and spoke model that we've been talking about moving to anyways, so.
Right, and very interestingly, this hub and spoke could include Calhoun County in the future.
Right.
Where they could be a part of our wider district. Now, as far as like selling the materials, our other, like Grand Ledge doesn't bail. Granger picks up their materials, Delta, Granger picks up their materials, and in Bellevue Olivet, Republic picks up their materials. So that isn't ideal, and we would like that to change in the future where they all bail. But at this point, it's just Cara and Sunfield that are having issues with storage. And even though we have a lot of storage in Sunfield, more than anybody else, I know with the ag plastic When that was going on, I was running out of room and I was close to having to move stuff outside.
Okay.
Jill?
Yeah, I was going to ask, where are we, and maybe I just forget, but I'm old, where are we with the ag plastic program?
The ag plastic program is unfortunately still kind of it's a sore spot for me. I've really worked hard on this program to try to make it work and be efficient, and it seems that nothing has come of it. We're still taking the plastic from EJ USA. We only currently have one actual agricultural farm that's bringing materials to us. I have no buyer for those materials. I have to separate them from EJ. I think we had discussed this before, that EJs could be marketed as LLDPE, which is a completely different market than the regular ag plastic. But the EJ materials are coming wet, and sometimes very wet. And when it comes time to sell the bales, when they're that wet, we're only getting about 2 cents a ton for their materials. And not only that, there's the wear and tear on the baler, there is the how much time it takes for us to actually bale them. Now, I don't think we're losing money yet on the 8 cents a pound that we are charging EJ USA. And my last meeting with them, Jill from Metro Recycling went out there with me, and we tried to figure out a way that we could hold some plastics to let them dry before they came to us. And then we could market them for 10, 12 cents a ton. As of yet, it hasn't really happened, and he told me at that meeting that they had crunched their numbers and they had discovered that our 8 cents a pound still cost them less than what they were paying in dumpster fees. So I think he might just be happy to keep it as is. And I think we're definitely going to have a discussion before we renew this program for another year. I've just about run out of ideas of how I can get this to work.
That's too bad.
I know, and, we really are taking in a lot of materials with EJ, but that's never been the demographic that we were looking for. We have never gotten any of our local agricultural on board.
The time and energy it takes for them to process the stuff at Sunfield is a bit extreme. Like she said, it's wet, and they're out there in the wintertime, and that building's not heated. So they're trying to bale this stuff and they get all wet when they bale it. I mean, like Debbie said, we'll just have to look at it in the future when that contract comes to renew. But staff time alone to process it, I don't know as if it's something that we're going to want to continue.
Well, when this program was originally brought to us, the idea was that, hopefully we would have the local agricultural people see the advantages to it and utilize it, and that doesn't seem to be the case, which is truly unfortunate.
And we were supposed to have partners that were actively involved in it. And I have received absolutely no help from our partners, even when I've reached out to them and specifically said that I'm having issues, let's set up a meeting. I went 6 months not knowing that my contact there had actually left. No one even bothered to let me know. So as far as I'm concerned, even though this is still a partnership, supposedly through a couple of different, and there's a state grant for this, we are on our own.
Well, and that's the thing, with our evolution and looking at a hub and spoke model, and also with the acquisition of the trailer that we're going to get, we could, because one of the hurdles for our local farmers to take advantage of the program is, again, just the distance that they would have to travel to get to Sunfield to drop it off. But if we could pick it up and do the regional hubs, that'd be great. But the problem is, we don't, as she mentioned, we don't have anybody to sell it to. And our partners that were supposed to help us find people to market it to just decided that they were going to, I'm sure they got some of the state money too, but decided that they were not going to participate with us. So, we can get it. And that was our problem too. Part of our problem is even when we were getting it, at the end of the day, we were just holding it because we couldn't sell it. And that's where we said, well, we're not going to do that. So that's the unfortunate thing, because I think that we could improve on how much we're collecting. But if we don't have anybody to sell it to, then what are we doing? So.
And I have serious concerns when it comes to selling, like, the products that are wet or that have some of the materials that they don't want as much, that some of these materials, you know, like this one lovely woman who brings in, she sweeps it off and she rolls it up and she brings it in every week. And that's one of the materials that they don't want. It's her bale covers. And I have this fear that all that effort that she has put into it and whoever is baling has put into it, that when it gets to its end place, that it's just taken a long, expensive trip to another dumpster.
Well, and I've said this before, and I guess I'll say it again. I mean, we have the theory in this country, and certainly in the last 20, 25 years, that the for-profit market solves all problems. And they're, quite frankly, are societal problems, which the for-profit market simply is not equipped to do that. And this appears to be a perfect example. We have waste that is being collected, but the program, as optimistic as anyone could be in terms of what it could actually do to benefit society at large, our community at large, it's going to fail for the fact that we can't find somebody to buy the stuff. And so we, at some point, as a society, as a country, I truly believe we're going to have to understand that there are certain problems out there that cannot be solved by the for-profit system. It's not geared for that. That's not what it exists for. And the idea of, we talked earlier about, I think in terms of E-Tran, one size fits all. This is a perfect example of one size fits all fails. So we'll never solve this problem so long as we want to rely on, at the end of the day, somebody else making a sizable amount of money off of this situation.
Any others? You have anything else for us?
No, I believe you'll find Melissa has prepared our finance report. And
I just want to let everybody know that we did order the truck and trailer. The truck has actually been delivered. It's the black one parked way out back. And the trailer is on order and should just be a couple months yet.
you should take a look at our truck. It's pretty cool.
We just need to get,
Oh, Jared and I took it out yesterday to pick up string lights, and we can barely get in it and out of it. We just kind of have to jump out.
I was just going to say, we got to get a quote on some running boards because Debbie and I aren't going to be able to get in and out of it very well.
Yeah, I have to grab the steering wheel and kind of hoist myself in there. But it's a really nice truck. It's all for hauling. It's a hauling machine. It's going to do great with our new trailer, and I'm so excited to get that and get started on that program. And of course, Jared and I will be have to start working on that too, when we're going to start advertising and when we want to get a hold of the townships that would be interested in taking the trailer to. So we'll be working on that real soon too, and update you on it. All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
I had those keys from Travis. He's been eyeballing that.
Parks is up next. Okay, Parks, you're up.
Good morning, everyone. Today, we have with us Williams and Works. This is the company that has been hired to do a strategic plan for 4 of the main parks in our park system. So I'd like to introduce them real quick. We're actually having a meeting after this meeting. It's kind of the kickoff to get this whole process started. And just very excited to have these guys with us and to see what they can give us here in a couple months. So pretty excited about that. I don't know if anybody has any questions for them. I'll put you right on the spot.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We'd be happy to introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
So hi, everyone. I'm Malia Rakestraw. I'm a landscape architect with Williams Works. I'm joined by Toby Hayes. Toby, would you like to say hi?
Hello, I'm Toby Hayes. I'm a community planner with Williams Works.
Yeah, so as Travis mentioned, we'll be working with the work group to assemble a strategic plan for Crandall, Fitzgerald, Fox Memorial, and Lincoln Brick Parks. First, we'll be looking at some conceptual design scenarios after talking to multiple focus groups to inform a couple plans for all of those. We'll meet back with you, midway through this process to confirm that the design scenarios that have been developed are, on track with what the commission sees as fit for the parks. And then we'll go back, make revisions, and put together a single document that'll help you guys through this process moving forward. So,
Yes.
all right.
This is a great opportunity for us, you guys, because a lot of times in the parks, you have to demo quite a bit. We kind of have a blank canvas, just because the parks have been kind of untouched for so long, so pretty exciting. I expect nothing but great things coming. As I did state, the Parks Focus Group did meet 2 weeks ago. We went over the community grant application to look for any changes that we wanted to make in the application itself, wording. We did get everything finalized. This year, applicants will have roughly around 6 weeks to complete the application, so pretty decent amount of time to get the word out there and to get as much projects as we can. Still working on the annual budget. Got quite a bit of bids out there, waiting for bids, I should say. I kind of put on some of the major ones that I'm looking at in the report here, but obviously there's a lot more components involved in this as well. And then kind of some of the bigger news. After 33 years with Eaton County, Jackie Blank has retired. So I was just informed by Ben Dawson today that position has been posted. So I should have an update for you hopefully by the next meeting. Really hoping to have that position filled as quickly as possible, but we'll see what we get back. So financial report should be in the packet as well. And I don't know if anybody has any questions for me.
So we do need action on the grant, just the amount and the timeline, which are in the packet in that grant eligibility criteria that Connie's scrolling through right now. So the grants would be anywhere from $200,000 to $400,000, and we're looking at releasing the grant, or we will rather, release the grant on March 1st.
Yes, Blake.
I'd move it, except we need to have an actual figure. It says 400,000 in here. but
The
we need
work
a range,
group suggested 200 to 400,000
so the motion.
in
should
grants.
have something like that in it. Just-
Well, I would say that the motion should be up to 400,000.
Okay.
If that's our that was the 200 to 400, I think was what we were going to communicate to the communities, if I remember correctly, but I
Right.
might be misunderstanding.
We're not gonna have like a number we're gonna fill or not, we're gonna fill no matter what. It's gonna be a number, depends what comes in, and we have a maximum amount, so.
Yeah, last year we approved, I think, 400 or something, and then we came back with additional because we wanted to be able to say yes to another request. And so, yeah, it'll be similar this year, depends on what we get, but we felt we wanted to set a target.
I read the application and it makes sense to me. Understanding that we're just dealing with municipals and the cities within the county, and I'm not sure they understand that yet, but that's all part of the education process, I think. And I wouldn't expect a whole lot coming back in these initial years of this project, but it'll build momentum, so.
Well, we got, how many did we got like 15 last year, didn't we?
14 last
Yeah.
year, and I think we approved 11. And as Terrence stated, we actually had a dollar amount that we had to bump up because we did, yep.
Well, I'll move the budgeted amount and the application.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Okay, yes.
Just a quick question. So Jackie is gone now? She's already retired?
She will be at the board meeting to receive her.
Okay, that was what I just wondered if we were gonna, okay. Thank
Will
you.
be here.
Aren't very many people still here that's been here 30 years, I guess.
He's looking at me. We're all together.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you. Miscellaneous?
The last thing is miscellaneous item, and Claudine and Commissioner Brailer have had a discussion, so I'm going to defer to the two of them to discuss. Joe wants to lead off.
Sure. As some of you may know, the governor has urged the local communities to develop housing plans in regards to the housing shortage crisis that Michigan has, that's really national. Tri-county planning has kind of facilitated that in the Tri-county area. There have been a number of overall meetings, I think 3, in regards to that, with an attempt to bring what they view as all of the various stakeholders together. They've been rather sizably attended from representatives of all 3 counties, developers, builders, people who work with individuals who substance abuse, mental health, unemployment. Michigan Works has been involved. It's been fairly an extensive opportunity. I've been attending the meetings as well as Commissioner Pearl Wright, and they break down into, I believe, 5 subcommittees, of which I'm co-chair of one of them. And the subcommittee that I'm co-chair of, we've met a couple of times and want to do a focus groups in all 3 counties. Ingham County, between the county government and the health department, has some funds that they think that they can use for the focus groups in Ingham County, but they are constrained, and they make it very clear in these meetings that they're constrained, that these monies can only be used in regards to residents of Ingham County. The discussions at this point have been that we would be doing at least one focus group, probably just one, in Eaton County. And we have put together budgets of what we think would be the low end to the high end. I have not had a chance to talk to Commissioner Pearl Wright about the subcommittee that she's on. I was in a meeting yesterday in which I asked the representative from Tri-County Planning if the other subcommittees at this point were thinking about doing focus groups and how many. And she didn't think any of the other 4 subcommittees were at this point looking at it, but it's possible. So we have a budget that we think would be somewhere between $1,500 to probably $2,500 for the subcommittee focus group that I'm working on. But I also am concerned that there might be some other funds that the other 4 subcommittees may want to do, because, we've talked a couple of times about the difference in terms of political ideas or philosophies. I think the others will run into the same problem, that each county will not want to simply underwrite the other 2 counties. So I've talked to Claudine and I've talked to Connie, and it appears that we have some money that the county has had for quite a while in regards to housing that we have not spent. And it's sizably more than $5,000. And so what I'm asking is that so that we can go ahead and do this focus group in Eaton County and perhaps cover any other ideas that may require individual contributions, I would like this committee to approve, and Connie or Claudine can tell you more about the monies that we have presently. But I would like you to agree that we would be able to contribute up to $5,000 in pursuant of this. The idea at the end of the day is that each community, and in this case we're talking about the Tri-County area, will put together a comprehensive plan to attack, or at least try to meet the housing crisis, which, as I said earlier, actually is countrywide, but Michigan has the same problems in many ways that the other states do as well. And I think the governor wants to attack the whole housing issue, and that's the impetus behind this. So I would appreciate your support in this matter.
Yes, Blake.
Commissioner Brailer, you keep referring to the focus group. What is it, and there's multiple ones, what is it focusing on? What is this particular focus group?
Well, the subcommittee that I'm chair of, or co-chair actually, is we're looking at equity, empowerment, and education. And the others are, there's others that are broken down that are largely developers or contractors. And I can't really speak to the other subcommittees. But what we are looking at, what I'm really trying to do is get the various different groups, ethnicities, and find out what the barriers are. And we think that there are many in terms of, not just in terms of biases, but in terms of education. People don't know what services might be available. There may be some roadblocks in terms of their ability to access, not only access the services, but work their way through them. We're really looking to see what are the barriers that individuals are running into that are preventing them from meeting their own housing needs. And to a certain extent, one of the things that I stressed yesterday was, what are those housing needs? Is it someone who's looking to purchase a home? And what are the criteria? Are they interested in whether there's a school nearby? Are they interested in whether there is sufficient groceries, where they can, and so we want to know what the barriers are to meet the needs of the people. And is it language? Are there people who have a difficulty with English? And so I don't know what the answers are. I have my own suspicions, as I'm sure that doesn't surprise anybody. But I'm open to seeing exactly what those barriers are. And so this focus groups, this idea is that we want to try to get as much actual lived experience as opposed to another one of these meetings that we've all been in, where various quote-unquote experts sit there and tell us what they think the problems are. And so, as an example, I would think that if it's successful, we will have people there who have mental health issues. We will have people there who might have substance abuse issues. We will have people there who may have criminal records. We will have people there who may be a newcomer to the community, whether that be an immigrant or somebody who's moved into the community and has no knowledge of where to go and how to go. We may have people there whose educational level is such that they don't really understand how to put together a budget, so they don't know, even maybe they can find a place, but they don't know how to make sure that they can put together a budget that financially allows them to keep the place. So that's my hope, that we come out of this, and that's why as I say, the subcommittee is titled, the three things we're looking at is equity, empowerment, and education. And the others are looking at other areas of the problem as we've seen it.
Yes.
I appreciate Commissioner Brailer bringing this to us and to our attention, and am very interested in supporting it. If you guys, Connie, Claudine, can talk about the monies that are available and where those would be coming from, I'd appreciate that.
Yes, we have housing funding that's what we identify as unrestricted housing money. Whenever we collect program income off the housing files that we have, if there's a year we collect under $30,000, we're able to keep that as unrestricted. Okay. So this would be an activity that would fall within that for the housing plan that we could use that unrestricted money for.
Okay, and this wouldn't require a general fund budget amendment?
No, not at all.
And would it still go to Ways and Means, or are we just approving it here?
because of the way the housing grant, the old budget is set up, we don't have money in the exact line item. So I'd want to do the amendment just from fund balance carryover.
So we'd be recommending this to Ways and Means on
Correct.
Friday, then?
Correct.
I would make that motion.
I would support it.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Blake?
I don't know. We're getting down into the, I got it. We're getting into the weeds a little bit about why people can't afford a house. And we have all kinds of reasons, and the bottom line really is people can't afford it. You know, whether their educational background, whether they were brought up as an immigrant, or whether they have other issues. I mean, it's real nice to examine all of these things, and I really, you know, we're gonna look at all these negative stereotypes and all these problems people have. Bottom line is, they don't have the money, you know? And we can do all the studies we want, and we can come to all kinds of conclusions, and we can draw all kinds of charts, and we can bring all kinds of stakeholders in. And to me, the answer, the problem is simpler than that, and it's really easy to look for what the problems are, but housing and resources are really what the things, it all comes down to the same issue.
I'm
And
not sure we do know what all the problems are, and that's why I referenced earlier whether it's somebody who wants to buy a home within a school district, where they have a school nearby or have appropriate ability to groceries nearby. Yes, there's a certain bias here. The idea is that the people who are unhoused don't have the money. But we know there are people who are working full-time that are living out of their truck or their car at this point for various reasons. I'm not sure we all know exactly what those reasons are. I think we have our own biases. That's why I really want to know what the barriers are. And I think if you're going to look at an overall state or even just look at our own community, attempt to solve or at least address the housing issue, is it the rent's too high? Is it that the amount of housing available is not sufficient? Is it because it's just not sufficient, or is it a particular kind of housing that's not sufficient? I may be able to afford to pay to buy a house, but I can't buy the kind of house I want for whatever reason. And so I think the subcommittee in and of itself is only looking at one slice of this problem. The other 4 subcommittees are going to have to do their work as well. And then hopefully we will have a direction to go forward if we're going to deal with this problem. I mean, we read all the time about gentrification, and we read about gentrification in San Francisco or New York City or Phoenix, but it's also happening right now in Lansing. And Lansing's needs are different than probably although I think there's some overlap, again, my thoughts. There are some overlap between the needs that we have here in Eaton County. So if we're going to deal with it at all, and, this is sort of like healthcare in the 90s, I keep reading more and more articles about there being this constant problem or crisis, as some put, in terms of housing nationwide. If we don't do these things and we don't do them right, then we miss the opportunity. I don't know where this is going to go. I said earlier, there's been 3, I think, large-scale meetings. I thought the first was very positive. I thought the second was a complete waste of time. And the third was somewhat in the middle. So I'm ambivalent about where this is ultimately going to take us, but I do think we should try.
so the money that we're talking about here, where is it going? I mean, you're talking about the focus group and it going there,
Yes, it's just simply.
not to the whole project in general?
No, at this point, the subcommittee I'm on is talking about doing 3 focus groups in Ingham County. Ingham County has some money. They're going to take care of that part. We're talking about doing one focus group in Clinton County. I don't know where they're going to find the money for that. There's some thought that Clinton County may have some funds available. And we're talking about doing one focus group in Eaton County, and the money that I'm talking about would be strictly for this focus group.
It would be to pay a facilitator, maybe rent on a place to host the meeting, things like that.
Food at it, there's been some, I mean, it's still somewhat in flux. That's why I don't think it's going to cost $5,000, but I also don't know what Jeannie's subcommittee is doing. And I don't know if they're going to have some kind of an ask as well, and I'm trying to anticipate ahead of time, and then, so my thought is that it's not going to cost $5,000 to do a focus group, but I don't know what her subcommittee is doing, and so that's why I would say up to, and it would be strictly for here in Eaton County.
What about the other, so we don't know the other 3 focus groups. Obviously, they need to have something
All I can tell you,
county.
all I can tell you, Blake, is that I asked yesterday at the meeting I was at for my subcommittee, whether the others were anticipating doing something like this, a focus group, something that would cost money, and was told by the person from Tri-County that they are not at this point talking about doing that. But I'm hedging my bet. I'm not asking for up to $2,500, which is, I think, the maximum. I can't believe this thing's going to cost more than that. And that's the high end. The low end of this is about $1,500. But I'm asking you to approve up to $5,000 on the possibility that one of these other subcommittees is going to come to us and say, we'd like to do X in Eaton County and we need $500 or whatever it might be. So ideally, I would only like to have this conversation once.
I'm just curious, so Claudine will probably be the administrator of it. She's the person that'll, I'm wondering who actually is running this thing. You're not the one running it. Somebody's gonna put together the workspace and the advertising and your focus groups that you're talking about to be successful need to have some outreach. And we're talking about it in 3 counties, multiple.
Well, we're not spending money for what they're doing in Ingham County. Ingham County, evidently, their county government has an equity department. I know the young lady who runs it, she's pretty much taken the ball in Ingham County. I have no idea what they're doing in Clinton County. There doesn't seem to be any Clinton County people on the subcommittee. So
If the group Joe's involved with wants to take care of finding a facilitator, finding a place, things like that, it would just be a matter of processing the payments to those places. Or if they need help identifying those places, I'm happy to assist with that as well.
Yes.
Yeah, just quickly, I think we all acknowledge that we have a housing problem nationwide, but specifically here in Eaton County. So I think if we do nothing, then nothing's going to change. So I think, spending a little bit of money that we already have set aside specifically for housing, to me, makes sense. And I think this is a good start to try to begin to figure out what the problem is. I suspect, Blake, you're absolutely right. A lot of the issues are going to boil down to finances, but there's a lot of nuances within just that part of it too. So, and I assume, Joe, this isn't just looking at home ownership, this is also looking at renting too, which is a huge problem in our county. And so that's something we as a society have got to address. And if we don't, then we're gonna have major, major problems here coming soon. So I think it makes sense and fully supportive of it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because that's why I tried to say before, what is it that people are looking for? Because I do believe that there are certainly younger, again, my bias, that the younger people may not be interested in buying at this point. They're interested in renting, and they can't find the type of facility that they want to rent. So we need to know what the full scope of the problem is before we can ever solve it. And I do believe at the end of the day, we'll find that what is really desired is going to be a mix. And then we'll, and
And I'm not against the process and the idea of working on this, and I guess probably you've talked about the other groups, and the ones that work with the landlords, the ones that work with the,
develop.
you're not involved with that group, in my
No,
realistic opinion. Sometimes there's other parts of the rental problem that have more to do than just equity. There's rental problems have to do with economic situations of people, and we are dealing a lot with rental. And yes, Eaton County has very high rental rate. I mean, high price for rentals because that's what we have here. And I see the barrier. The barrier is financial. The barrier is we don't have enough low-cost rental in this county. I see all that, and I guess I applaud the group trying to find some solutions. And I'm just I guess my concern and not concern, just wondering if we're throwing money at one part of it and not the whole picture,
well, you're right to that extent, Blake, that I have not attended any of the meetings of the other subcommittees. So I don't really know where they are in terms of what they want to do. And that's why I'm trying to, as I say, go a little higher than what I think the subcommittee I'm on is ever going to.
Which leg is Jeannie's subcommittee? What is she working on?
I have no idea. I haven't been able to talk to her, so I don't know which subcommittee she's on. I think she told me once, but I don't honestly remember.
Yes, Brian?
I understand what Blake's saying, I understand what Joe his point, but I would say, I don't know how much money we've got for them to access, so I would suggest that we write just a brief letter, send it to all the committees saying, we have money available, tell us what you'd like to have if you want to hold a focus group before we commit to just Joe's focus group, figure out how we can divide that 4 ways if necessary, and then decide how much to spend. I mean, if you've got 3 other groups that are going to come to us for money and we've only got $5,000 to spend, I don't think it's fair to cap one group at $5,000. So, and I understand, it's an estimate, I get that, but I'm just.
We're not going to spend $5,000. I'm asking for $5,000 to try to anticipate what the others.
Well, and I understand that, so let's reach out to those other focus groups before we come up with that amount and see what they want to do. Maybe they're not going to have a meeting, I don't know.
Joe, when were they planning on doing the focus group that you're talking about?
I have no idea what I don't even know if some of the other focus groups have even met yet. Or, I'm sorry. I was thinking you were asking me about the other subcommittees. Ingham is going to do 2, I think, in March and 1 in April. We're probably looking at doing it in March or April, I would think would be the plan.
Well, I understand what Brian's saying. I would just say that they're not here asking us for the money right now, and Joe is, and Joe's a co-chair of that committee, and I'm fine with allocating $5,000 to. I mean, you have to, as Blake pointed out, you have to spend money to advertise these things. We know it's difficult, especially if you're trying to reach a certain segment of the population. It's very difficult to reach them and to try to engage them. And the only way this works is if you get them to participate. And so that's going to cost probably more money than people even anticipate. So I get what you're saying. I think that we've got a request in front of us, and I think it's a reasonable request. We've got the funding already sitting there, not being used for anything. So again, I say that we move forward with this and deal with the others as they come. That's my thoughts.
Any further discussion?
It's very unclear, but I'll support the concept, the money. And again, we don't know Jeannie's part. We don't know what they're going to do. There's a lot of unknowns here. We're dealing with monies that are allocated for this purpose. The housing monies. We don't know what we're going to do with that. That makes me a little uncomfortable.
I wrote a note to find out who the other subcommittees are and to get with Jeannie.
And the fact that we're going to use these monies essentially for Eaton County work, given those criteria, best of luck. I support it.
I appreciate your support. Thank you.
So we have a motion? It's moved and supported. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Okay? Any other? Nothing? We can adjourn?
Limited public comment.
Okay, we're gonna have public comments. Everybody's quiet? Guess they want to adjourn. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.